Welcome. Welcome to another episode of Timesink, the weekly podcast to let you know what's out there worth sinking your time into. I'm your host, Sauce, and I'm joined by, as always, the pretty one, Mr. Hummer.
What do you mean the pretty one? That's not me. That's definitely not me.
That's exactly what you said last week. And we're also joined by Tito.
Hey, my mom tells me I'm the pretty one, but other people have told me that's not the case. So,
Yeah, it's not the case.
I think
All
you're
right.
the
This
pretty
week
one.
this week we're going to be talking about what is hot in the media, not
Your
the
mom.
liberal media, video game, movie, TV media. What's hot with what's good, what's worth checking out with some of the retro stuff out there, some of the passion projects we're working on. So stay tuned because we got a lot of stuff to hit you with today. But right now we're going to start with Hustlers. I don't know anything about it.
Ooh.
But Hummer, he's
What
got
is
some
that?
stuff to tell us.
What is hot? Hustlers. Inspired by the viral New York Magazine article, Hustler follows a crew of savvy former strip club employees who band together to turn the table on their
Sold.
Wall Street clients.
I'm literally trying to watch it right now.
Oh, it's really good. It stars Constance Wu. You may know her from the Crazy Rich Asians. She starred in the lead role with Crazy Rich Asians, and the ageless and super sexy Jennifer Lopez, and then like the mom,
she
the
is
momish
ageless.
Julia Stiles.
Whoa. Can we go back and talk about Jennifer Lopez for a second?
Oh, absolutely. That's why this movie is hot.
Big Selena fan, big fan of her music, big Mark Anthony fan. Let's talk about Mark Anthony.
No, this movie
Sick
was actually really
transition.
good. We saw it. My wife and I saw it in the theaters before. I think we saw it in the theaters. Maybe we rented it. I don't remember. Either way, it was really good. If you haven't watched it, it's definitely worth renting right now on Apple TV. It's renting for 99 cents. At that price,
Oh, wow.
yeah, at that price, if you don't have a movie picked out this weekend, this is the one I'm telling you to go with. So maybe not tomorrow, but Friday or Saturday. So I'd give it a solid 4 on the watch it now scale. Definitely entertaining. Your wives will love it too. Sauce, Tito, more specific here. Be careful, you may end up with 2
Oh.
more.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
I'm actually not allowed to watch any movies with any female lead characters, so I don't know if I can watch this one, guys.
I was being coy earlier, but yeah, I've seen it as well. My wife and I have also seen it, and it's really good. It's got all kinds of elements. So like the story is actually really nicely done. Like the story, the acting is strong. Like it is hot. It's about a bunch of strippers. They're doing their thing. They're dancing up there. And the acting is great. It's got star power. Everybody loves Jennifer Lopez. Constance Wu is great.
Everybody.
Cardi B is in it.
Oh, yeah.
How is
that's
Cardi
right.
B in it? Is that her acting debut?
I think so. I haven't really looked extensively into Cardi B's acting career, but she's
There's
in
some
it. Lizzo
videos
is in
on
it.
some websites you can see her in.
Yeah,
We'll
Lizzo's
put
in it
those
too.
show notes.
Lizzo, I could have done without the Lizzo appearance though.
Wow. I'm not gonna ask any follow-up questions. No, it's a really good movie.
Bring them on.
Why is Hummer great until he's got to be great?
I mean,
No,
the music's good. Just the stripper version of Lizzo is not as good.
Is it because of her dance moves?
It's definitely because of her dance moves.
That's
Who
surprising.
prefers vanilla ice cream and not a hot fudge, hot chocolate chunk fudge?
Hmm.
I like my ice cream
That's
exotic.
that's complicated.
All
Anyway,
right. So what are you giving then over there, Tito, with respect to Hustlers?
I'd for sure give it a 4 out of 5. It's great, and it is like it's definitely so like I wouldn't recommend Doom Eternal to my wife. I would recommend Tiger King. We did watch it together. But Hustlers it's a good complete movie. It's got a good plot, it's got good acting, it's got I don't know how to say this. It's got something for the guys and for the ladies.
All right.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, I'd give it a 4 out of 5. If you were looking for a movie to watch, definitely check it out.
I'm gonna see if my wife will let me watch it.
And next month, Sauce has twins.
Texting her now. You'll for
Oh,
sure
don't
have
put that
twins.
Doug, you take it back.
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
All right, Tito. What's hot for you right now? That's a
Yeah,
loaded question.
last week I said I was gonna check out Final Fantasy VII, and I did. So I bought Final Fantasy VII. I was when I was young, I was an N64 kind of guy. Played a lot of, played the Zeldas, played the Donkey Kong 64, Mario Kart, all that good stuff. Didn't ever play too much of the PlayStation games, but I always loved RPGs and was always looking at the Final Fantasies from afar. So Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy VII, when Final Fantasy X came out, that was a big one. And Final Fantasy VII, I think, is always the biggest kind of name that drops. So I've always wanted to play it. When I heard they were coming out with the remake, I was really excited to play it. So downloaded it probably the same night after we signed off on the podcast last week, and I played through the more or less through the first level, beat the first boss. It's great. It's a bunch of recognizable characters, Cloud, Biggs, those guys, and it plays really well. You have your gigantic sword, you're leveling up, the gameplay is really intuitive, and there's already the beginnings of a really large and diverse universe within the game. So it started off good, and I'm really excited to pursue it. I don't want to rate it right now. I've never played the original. I've never played the original. Have you?
No, I've never played any of the Final Fantasies. I'm not a big JRPG kind of guy.
I love a good RPG. I love a good JRPG. Those are time sinks. But I do love to sit down and put the time into them, and I'm really excited to. I played Final Fantasy 2 when I was way back in college, and just had a light semester and just played through it. But that was like pixel art. That was 2D. It was a good game, but I've been wanting to play one of the more quote unquote modern ones. So I'm really excited to play through this one over the next couple weeks.
So you haven't beat it, but if other people are thinking about getting it and playing it, what would you say?
I think I'll come back in a couple weeks with a full-on number rating, because I've really only made it through the first couple hours of the game. But it starts off very exciting. The gameplay is intuitive. If you like JRPGs, if you like RPGs, I would definitely check it out. The battle system is a little different than your normal. I think so. I don't know if JRPG translates to everyone. So that's Japanese RPG. So it's more of a turn-based, very heavily story-driven, very time-consuming, long game. The battle system here, very, very long. The battle system here is not turn-based. It's more action-oriented. So you're more like real-time fighting, button mashing a little bit, but leveling your character up. And that's a departure from like previous Final Fantasy games, the older school Final Fantasy games. But if you like JRPGs, I would definitely check it out, and I'll tell you in a couple episodes once I get through a little bit more of it. If I would recommend it widely to everyone. If I would recommend it to you, Sauce, who's not a big JRPG guy.
So far you don't have a solid answer then?
I like, for me personally, I'd probably say like a 3 right now. Like how excited I was to play this game, I was on the 4 to 5 range. Um, Playing it, I can see that it's not for everybody. Um,
Okay.
but if you're someone who likes RPGs, if you're someone who likes a really heavy story element, complex character development in their games, then this is probably the game for you. It's the game for me. This is the exactly the kind of the stuff I like.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about getting it because I know Final Fantasy VII. People talk about that as like one of the best games of all time. But I hate turn-based games, except for Pokemon. It's classic, but
That is
I
classic.
really just don't. I can't. It's not exciting to me. So since they took that part out and they made it really cinematic, yeah, I think I'm gonna add it to the list, but maybe not as based on what you just said. Maybe not as quickly.
Yeah, I'll let you know how it goes as I progress through it. But yeah, like classically, it's turn based. You put in a command, your player does it. You wait for the other person to go. This one, you're moving around the screen. You're like prioritizing what attacks and what moves you wanna do next. It's interesting. It's it feels very natural.
So
Summer doesn't.
I've never played any of the Final Fantasies. I think I always was just overwhelmed with the number of Final Fantasies that I'm like, at what point do I have to go back? Do I need to play Final Fantasy 1? You mentioned you've played since 2, but now there's what, like 13,
I've only played 2, and I believe there are 15.
15
Yeah.
Final Fantasies. That's just a daunting number to me.
Yeah, for sure. So they're not. I actually am not super familiar with the series because I was kind of in your shoes. Like I saw them go by, I heard that they were epic. I've wanted to play all of them, but 15 is a lot. But I might get roasted for this by some Final Fantasy aficionado. I don't think they are intertwined. Like I don't think they all happen in the same universe. I think each Final Fantasy is its own self-contained story.
Okay. Well, that's not bad. But it's
Some
also on
characters.
place. Is it on more than PlayStation?
Uh, I currently I believe it's only on PlayStation.
Well,
I think there's the Xbox.
you lost me.
Oh, speaking of losing people brutally, I this week watched the Mortal Kombat movie Scorpion's Revenge, and I really enjoyed it. So
Nice.
it's animated, which I know for something's animated, they're instantly gonna not watch it or be turned off to it.
Those people
Like,
sound really insecure.
I'm sorry. What'd you say?
but if you're a fan of the Mortal Kombat series, like for me, I grew up like, Mortal Kombat, do 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 do. That song's amazing. Okay, that
Oh,
Mortal Kombat movie, playing the games growing up. So the Mortal Kombat Scorpion's Revenge, it just came out recently. It's a really cool backstory for Scorpion, and I'm not going to spoil it, but the movie was really entertaining, and it's hilariously brutal. Like if you played any of the new Mortal Kombat's, how they're like, if you punch someone in the face, it'll like zoom in into an X-ray of like their skull breaking. They do
yep.
that in the movie a lot. Hilariously gory and hilariously like overkill. But it's actually pretty entertaining, and I really like that they got Johnny Cage voiced by Joel McHale,
Oh,
who
really?
Winger. Yeah, he's Jeff Winger in Community, and he's an amazing Johnny Cage. Um, and I liked it a lot, but I know that's kind of more niche. So for somebody who might not, probably not a ton of Mortal Kombat fans out there. Plus, it's animated. But I think it's worth a watch. So I definitely am giving it a solid 3 out of 5.
What service is it on? Where are you watching it?
I downloaded it.
Oh, okay. So is that so like if I look it up on Amazon, that's probably something I'd pay for. Like you could buy it on Amazon.
Yeah, just like I did.
Okay, got it.
Let's see. I'm gonna answer your question right now. No, I'm not.
Do you know if it's part of a series? Like, are there other, like,
So
is it in continuity with other animated Mortal Kombat movies?
So it's definitely like a retelling of the first story of like the first Mortal Kombat and how they're trying to save Earthrealm, and they definitely set it up for a sequel. So it's like the first
Okay,
one in what they want to make more of, and
nice.
I thought it was great.
How'd you hear about it?
I kept seeing ads for it because Google watches everything I do and it targets stuff specifically to me, so they knew I'd like it.
Fair enough. Nice.
You guys
I'll
played a lot of Mortal Kombat when you were younger?
I did
I got
watch
into
it.
Mortal Kombat. Yeah, I played a lot. I played a I played a little bit when I was a kid. When I would sneak over to one of my buddies' houses because my mom definitely did not let me play any Mortal Kombat. And then at one point when I was in college, I think Mortal Kombat 10 came out, and me and one of my roommates played a lot of Mortal Kombat at that time. So it's always good. And I mean, you always have the classic characters: Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Johnny Cage, Raiden. You always want to check in and see what they're doing. And there's tons of adaptations over the years. So I love Mortal Kombat. I'll definitely check this out. Um, yeah, I have a long history with it.
Who's your
I
favorite
used,
character?
I think I used to play it on Sega Genesis.
That's the way, baby.
Yeah,
Get
Mortal
over
Kombat
here!
2. Mortal Kombat 2, I knew all of oh Ryu bicycle kick.
Liu Kang.
Oh, Ryu is Street
That's
Fighter.
Street Fighter.
Yeah, Liu Kang. I don't know if I was good at Liu Kang, but I knew all of his moves. But then new Mortal Kombat 10, I played Scorpion for sure.
Everybody loves Scorpion.
Finish him.
I just like Liu Kang's. Oh, what?
Mhm. Were there any animalities or babalities in the
Yeah.
movie?
God, who played her?
No, there were some finishers, but nothing hilarious.
Okay. Fair. Nice.
So, so that's what's hot right now that we checked out currently. Now we're gonna dive a little deeper, something in the old school, something maybe it's been out for a while. What have you been getting into, Hummer?
So the other night, I guess you could say bored or just kind of looking to watch a movie where you know what's going to happen so you can watch it but then zone out at the same time. And while I was attempting to do that, I ended up not zoning out and getting really into the movie for the second time around, and that movie was Rounders. Are you guys familiar with that one?
I've
It's
never
been a
actually
while.
seen the whole thing, but there was a time when I knew it was really popular.
There was a time, 1998. Yeah.
Hey,
We're
that
getting
was the
pretty.
time.
Yeah, we're getting pretty far back there. For I think this was a young Matt Damon. Edward Norton was still alive. Um, they put Gretchen
I
Mol
think he's
on there on this
still
like
alive.
the cash sheet too, and I'm like, she's maybe had 10 minutes of screen time. I'm not sure why she gets the nod as the A-list actor on the Internet Movie Database. But what fantastic movie! If you guys haven't seen it, or if you haven't finished it, stop what you're doing, get off the podcast, go at least finish it. If you haven't watched it before, it's good. It's worth a shot. It's rewatchable. It's definitely a rewatchable
All
movie.
right.
If you want to know what it's about, it's basically this guy who he's a gambler. He wants to be a professional poker player, and basically he starts off trying to win a big stakes poker game, but instead of winning, he's overconfident and loses it all. And it's kind of about his story of redemption and a crazy cast of characters that goes along the way, and life lessons that are learned along the way to help you become a poker champion.
All right.
Yeah.
I think I watched that movie back in 1998 with Tito in my mom's basement.
That
Like I'm
sounds
pretty
sounds like something we would have done.
Well, you guys should go
What'd you
back over to Tito's house and watch it in his mom's basement.
Yeah.
so what'd you watch it on, Hummer?
I watched that on Netflix.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, is it on Netflix?
Absolutely, on Netflix. Nice and easy for everyone who has. If you don't have Netflix, chances are you're not listening to this podcast.
If you don't have Netflix, Stoss will buy you a Netflix subscription for the next year. That's a promise, guaranteed. No takebacks.
Damn it.
DM us.
No take backs.
Got him.
It's binding.
It's a contest, I guess.
I've always wanted to watch Rounders. I watched that first. There's a guy. There's the first scene, like the very first scene where he like sits down at a big stakes poker table, right? And it's like a huge name guy.
John Malkovich.
Yeah.
Oh, he's not that big, right? It's not that big.
He has a movie named
Just a
after
whole
himself.
movie about being John Malkovich.
Yeah. I'll probably for sure check out Rounders in the next day or two. It's something that's been on my back burner for a really long time, and sounds like a good time to invest in.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys are like me. I rewatch a lot of movies to the point to where my wife has said, "Oh my God, you're watching that again? Like, you just watched that like 2 months ago." I'm like, "Well, I'm running out of movies to watch, so I'm rewatching the old ones again."
Sounds like she needs to mind her own business.
I'm sorry, baby. He didn't say it. He didn't mean it.
Tito said that.
I met her recently. She's lovely.
Yeah, keep your eyes off.
Placeholder for sound effect.
There it looks like Netflix is a pretty big influence here on our What's Older segment this week. Because Tito, you were telling us about something on Netflix that you were diving into that's a little older.
Yeah, we talked about Ozarks. I think both of the last episodes. So maybe we'll move off Ozarks. But I previously had only watched the first one or two episodes. We were a little bit. My wife and I were watching it, and we were not too interested after the first or second episode because it's a really good setup, but like some very messed up graphic type things happen. So I moved away from it. But even after you get past those first couple of episodes, it gets really good. And then when you look back at the setup, those first two episodes are great for what they set up in the future. So season 1 is awesome, and we just moved right on. We're towards the end of season 2. So we moved from season 1 into season 2. It's a really nice, cohesive story. And I think you even said, Sauce, that you loved season 1, weren't as into season 2, although it was still good. For me, it's like one nice cohesive story, and it moves right through really really nicely. I'm kind of watching the whole thing as a whole, as opposed to two separate seasons. So
that's what Netflix is for.
Yeah, we've all basically. I started watching it at 7 a.m. and watched the first two seasons. Stopped the podcast, and we'll just keep pushing on for the rest of the night. Hopefully, be done by noon tomorrow. No, Ozarks is really good. It has, I forget if we said this last week, but it definitely has some notes of Breaking Bad to it. There's a great theme that I love in these crime stories of the underestimated person. And there's a few people in the story who are like super intelligent, very cutthroat, but don't look like it. And they do all of these things that they're able to do because a lot of people underestimate them. So it's a nice story of like intelligence and talent winning out. It's a good story. So I would highly recommend Ozarks. Went back into it. I'll probably watch at least another episode or two before I head back to bed tonight, and we'll probably be done with season 3 by the time we hit the podcast next week. Um, so if you're looking for something to watch, once again, I wouldn't be like podcast turns off, binge the whole season, but it's really good. I'd give Ozarks 4. Seasons 1 and 2, I'd give a 4.
A lot of force. You know what I really appreciate about Ozarks? Season 1 is amazing. It's
really
I
good.
mean, it's really hard to find something that beats it, and it hasn't hit what a lot of series like has happened to them. Like for me, The Office is like one of the best television series of all time, except for season 8 and 9. It really just completely falls off and is terrible. And you can say that for a lot of shows, like Lost, like, you know, it didn't end the greatest. Like it's really hard to find a good show where the creator knew from the start where it was going, how it was going to end, and is
Right.
good from every single season. And so far, Ozarks has been good every single season. Like I have some quibbles about season 3, but Jason Bateman directing that show, who plays also Marty Bird in the show, is a phenomenal director, and he's directing another newer show called The Outsider on HBO, which is really good too, worth checking out. He directs that, and he's transitioning from actor to director, and he's doing a really, really good job. So
The
yes,
cast for
Ozarks
Ozarks
is
great.
fantastic.
The cast is so good.
It's, you mentioned like Breaking Bad, like it's, you know, the direction of where they wanted to go with the show right from the beginning. This is a completely different show, but it shouldn't make me mad at all because of how it ended, but it really irritates me. It's House of Cards. They were doing so good until Kevin Spacey left the show. Like,
I didn't watch it.
Why is that?
if Frank Underwood is not in that show, it's not worth it. His wife, I'm sorry, she's just, if she's our first female president, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Claire Underwood is weak. I just didn't like they were forced to take the show in a random direction, and you know what? I think that's one time we could have maybe just said, let's bring Kevin Spacey back. Let's let America find out what really happens to Frank Underwood.
Forget everything else. I need to finish this show. All crimes forgiven.
No. Let him do it from jail. You know, we'll let him do it from jail, and then you extend his sentencing out. You know. Shame.
He goes. The kind of jail that he goes to, I'm pretty sure has a nice recording studio and probably could set up some sets.
Yeah.
So
Hell, we got CGI. We got CGI nowadays. Princess Leia was in the last Star Wars.
true. And we all
Hummer
love
also
the last
wants to
Star
see.
Wars.
Hummer wants to see some more Weinstein productions coming back too.
No, we're good on those. We're good on those. Just yeah, no, that was a show that had that trajectory where you felt like they knew where they were going to take it, and then it just fell off a cliff because, you know, the actor had to leave. Sad times. Ozarks though.
Yeah.
Season 3, I don't have the same gripes as you do. I think they did it just fine.
I'm excited to see season 3 of Ozarks and kind of be the tiebreaker here. But I mean, I'm loving it so far, the whole series, and the cast is amazing. Jason Bateman is great. Laura Linney is great. Ruth in the show, she's not like a gigantic actress, but like I love Ruth in the show. She's awesome. She's a great foil to Jason Bateman's character.
Starting to look a little spicy too.
Spicy indeed.
The lawyer, I don't
Pepto-Bismol.
remember the actress's name, is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, she's good too. It's a great cast. They totally nail it.
Janet McTeer, that's her name, and she's amazing in it.
Is she in other stuff? I don't think I've seen her in other.
She's in Jessica Jones season 2.
She's in Me Before or You Before. She's in You Before Me as the mom of the paraplegic kid guy. It's a really that's a 5. If you guys haven't seen that movie, that's a 5.
Go
What's it
to
called?
Before Me.
5 with the wives.
Okay.
Am I gonna need tissues?
You're gonna need to bring. Yeah, you're gonna need tissues. Tissues for sure.
I'm a big crier when it comes to anything.
If we had a section called Guilty Pleasures, that movie falls under one of my guilty pleasures, along with Love Actually and
Hey, man.
About Time.
Holiday for me. The
Holiday.
holidays. Pleasures.
I'm
So
a Muppet Christmas Carol guy myself, but each their own.
From Guilty Pleasures to Christmas Carols.
hey, did you ever give Rounders a score?
I think I gave it. If you've seen half of it, you need to stop listening now and go watch it. But Rounders is just a classic. I mean, it's if you haven't seen it, make time to go see it. You don't need to stop what you're doing. You're not going to run into too many pop culture references about the movie Rounders that you're not going to understand. So if I'm giving it an overall score, 3. See it when you have. There's a 3. See it when you have time. It's already out on DVD.
Or of a 2, sounds like.
More of a
It's
2.
2,
That's
see it.
fine.
Or not. Well, no, never mind.
Yeah, it's out on DVD. You can get at your leisure, get around, watch it. Just
It's on Netflix.
yeah. It's Netflix.
All right. Well, great. So for me, what I've been doing that's something that's older is rewatching one of my favorite shows of all time, because recently Community came to Netflix.
Bum bum
So
bum.
Yes, it's being exposed to people who've never got a chance to watch it all before.
So good. It's so good.
Community is one of my favorite TV shows of all time, but this one has a lot of caveats. So like The Office, best show ever, but was terrible after season 7. Community, created by Dan Harmon, who is huge and well known for making Rick and Morty, which is also a fantastic show, left because he was fighting with the producers and Chevy Chase in season 4. And so season 4 of Community is pretty terrible. They call it in the show the gas leak year. But he comes back in season 5, but it does lose a little bit of his steam. But it does make it to 6 seasons. Not a movie yet. We still need a movie from it.
The first 5 or 6 episodes of season 5 are really good, because it's they're like some vague references to Pierce, and then Donald Glover is still in it for the first 5 or 6 episodes, and then Donald Glover leaves, and that's when that's when I feel like the first 3 seasons are amazing. They're perfect. They're so good. Season 4 is terrible.
Do we refer
although
to
it has
Donald
moments
Glover,
because the cast is so good.
do we refer to Donald Glover as Donald Glover, or do we refer to him as Childish Gambino? Like, do you differentiate between acting and in singing, rapping, whatever we want to call it?
Yeah. I think his musical career is Childish Gambino. He makes the distinction that his music is Childish Gambino and his acting is Donald Glover, because he played Simba in the recent Lion King movie, which pains me to say was not good. I wanted it to be good so bad, but it wasn't. Oh, it wasn't good.
A 1?
Nah, I would give it a 2.
Solid 2.
It wasn't terrible. I feel like for me a 1 is like, don't see this movie. A 2 is like, if it's on, you can watch it. Like it's at some point in your life, maybe you should try to watch it.
I think you wrote down on the scale that the 2 is you're good either way.
Yeah, it has good moments. The animation is really good in Lion King. But I think it suffers from. Okay, I can talk about Lion King for a second. I think it suffers from the original Lion King is so iconic. Like there are so many things in the original Lion King and so many scenes where you can literally just hear the words in your head and hear how those actors deliver it. And so when someone is singing the song and it sounds different, if they make a choice that wasn't as good as the original actor's choice, like it's just very easy to point those flaws out. So like it looks amazing. The cast is crazy for that movie, but like it just didn't hit with the same um, feeling that original Lion King hit with. Anyway, Community.
We're off on that tangent, but if you want to go down that rabbit hole a little further, I felt the same way with Aladdin. I had great expectations. Aladdin is, I think, a 2. You're good either way, but it's the same thing. You know, Robin Williams was the iconic genie, and
Robin Williams was perfect.
And Will Smith does a decent job at playing the genie, but he's not Robin Williams.
No.
I thought it was a good choice because they're like, okay, like they didn't get Jack Black or whatever, Will Ferrell, someone who like can kind of sing and is kind of crazy. They didn't try to do Robin Williams. They went a different direction, which I thought was a good theory.
A more urban direction.
but
not the Kevin Spacey direction.
No.
But
God.
Let's talk about Kevin Spacey a lot more. No, it's just so hard to replicate that. Like if you have a huge iconic performance that people can like, you think of Genie, you can come up with a bunch of just quotes off the top of your head and hear Robin Williams' voice. That's a hard ask for anybody to replicate or to change course. Aladdin, Lion King, Community. Donald Glover in Community is amazing.
Thank you.
My best man in my in his best man speech at my wedding dropped in an amazing, tearful Donald Glover reference when he's leaving the show. That last season is great. I don't know, Sauce.
So
how's it been going through Community again?
So I want to expose as many people as I can to this show. I always compare Community to like, this is the show for like real like pop culture nerds. Like people used to say, because this is out as the same time as like Big Bang Theory, and like oh, that's a show for nerds. No, Big Bang Theory is terrible. It's like some corporate shills. It's a corporate shills like representation of what they think a nerd is. Like ha, math, get it? Like, no, that's not it at all.
You're a nerd,
Community.
And I happen to know you're terrible at math.
Exactly. Even though I work in finance, but we won't talk about that. I want
that's why they make calculators and Excel.
Yeah, exactly. A calculator. I got like 3 calculators. So if you're gonna watch Community, it's 100% worth it. At least for the first 3 seasons are perfect, like Tito said. But the first 12 episodes, they're still finding their footing. Like they're still like not sure what they can do and get away with. And like after you're halfway through the first season, when it really changes is when Jack Black comes on. The whole tone of the show completely goes off the rails, goofier, crazier, more meta. All the characters find themselves, and it is one of my top favorite shows of all time. So,
it's so good.
I highly, highly recommend Community, except for season 4.
It's so good.
If you haven't seen it before, I'm not going to tell you to go out there and stop what you're doing and watch it, because it might not be your cup of tea. Like, I would recommend The Office to anybody if they've never seen it before. That's 5 out of 5. Community's more niche, so I'll give it a 4 out of 5.
Can I chime in on the ratings?
No.
Yeah, because I'm disagreeing. I think Community
was
was awesome. I think Community is one of those ones where, if you don't have a show that you're currently binging, you're looking for a new one, put Community on as your next show. Like, finish the one that you're on. As soon as you're done, move directly over to Community. Get through it. It is phenomenal. So I don't know if that counts as a 4 or 5, but
I'm gonna start out on the front end. I'm gonna say it's a 5 for me, and this is my argument. So it's a little bit of a departure from what we've previously said. Like, you're not. I think if you watch the first 2 episodes of Community, you're going to be like, oh, this is funny, it has some good jokes, the characters are kind of interesting, but you're not going to think that this is like the best show of all time. I think if you watch the first entire season of Community, you become a Community fan. Like you have to watch it in its entirety. If you get through that, I don't think this is spoiler. If you get through the paintball episode, like you are hooked. That episode is amazing. But you really have to watch those. Like you have to put the commitment in and put the time in for like the first 12 episodes before it gets really crazy, and then the back end 12 episodes where it like really finds itself. If you watch the whole first season, like you will be all in for the second, third season. You'll push yourself to finish the whole series, even though it like goes up and down. Like the story of the show itself, with Dan Harmon leaving, Dan Harmon coming back, Chevy Chase leaving, the actors getting so successful, like there are some big time names that end up coming out of that episode, out of that series. Some big time names that went into that series. I would give it a 5. I'd say, yeah, like obviously The Office is like a generational classic up until Michael Scott leaves, but like if you haven't seen Community,
literally the day Michael Scott leaves is when that show starts going down the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Community, put some time in. Take a month, watch the first season. After you watch the first season, you'll just burn through the rest of it. It's amazing. Minus season 4.
Sure, the episode where Kevin spills all the chili takes place after Michael Scott leaves, and
you're not.
No,
you're wrong.
I would say the true peak of the mountain is when Robert California is introduced to The Office. That I think is when The Office truly takes its peak, because I actually enjoyed the few episodes with Will Ferrell. I enjoyed Andy taking over The Office for a while, but once Robert California comes in the picture, it just becomes like more not that the show wasn't already over the top and crazy in the antics that happened in The Office. It just gets like in my mind, no corporation would ever do anything near what Robert California would do, because it would just not be successful. Where Michael Scott was successful in spite of what he did, but there's also times and glimpses in the show where he was brilliant. Like you could see in the Chili's episode where him and Jan first got together. A really great time where you see this Michael Scott's just supposed to be this buffoon who just wants to drink and eat an onion bloom or onion straws or ribs or whatever the heck it was.
A bloomin' onion is what you're thinking of.
But whatever it was, like all of a sudden he closed the sale and Jan even kind of looks at him like, holy cow, you know what you're doing.
This guy's got game.
Tan everywhere. Jan.
On that note, speaking of other Office-related podcasts, do you guys listen to the Ladies of the Office?
Yes.
I haven't jumped in.
Office Ladies, that's what it's called.
Or Office Ladies. Sorry for getting that one wrong. It's so good. So good.
It came out. They announced it right after my wife and I did like a full rewatch of The Office, whenever that was in the fall. We realized that we had never fully finished the series, and so we're like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna watch the whole thing. So like over a couple months, like here and there, we watched some episodes, finished it, and then like a couple weeks later, they announced they were starting their podcast where they were going through every episode. So we'll get to it.
Yeah, it's really cool. They basically just give you behind the scenes of every episode. It's awesome.
Oh, I just want to throw in one more community point too, because Tito was talking about all the big names that came out of it. The Russo brothers directed for Community, so obviously they're kind of a big name.
Is it? Yeah, sorry, keep going.
I actually got to meet the Russo brothers, so that was a highlight for me.
I didn't know that's where you were going.
Humble brag.
Did you not know that? Did
I don't. Tell us about it. I don't think you did say that. I don't know if you told me that.
Okay. So the paintball episode of Community is so good that they got approached by Marvel for Captain America Winter Soldier, and they filmed Captain America Winter Soldier in Cleveland, so I got to be an extra in it. So that was the first time I got to meet them. And then recently this year, the Russos are directing a movie with Tom Holland, and they were filming that in the middle of Ohio, so I got to be an extra in that movie too. So I got to be directed by them twice. It was awesome. Just because I'm such a big Marvel fan and Community fan.
That's wild. I didn't know you actually had met them. I knew that you had been an extra in those movies and that you'd gone there, and like you didn't you meet Tom Holland? Like, did you say hi or shake his hand or maybe see him from a
I just
distance?
I just said, "You rock, Spider-Man," like a big nerd.
That counts.
I got to be in a scene with him, like a really tight. Like you'll definitely see me if they don't cut that in the when Cherry comes out.
Nice.
So that's cool.
Yeah, I mean it's yeah, that's so crazy that they directed that they like got their big jump from Community to the Marvel movies. It's so wild. And if you look like the directing in the first couple of seasons of Community is amazing. Like I mean the shows are amazing, and I guess I couldn't point to something to be like, yep, that's a director choice right there. But like there was just a lot of excellent talent on those first three seasons, like people who moved on from there. Um, some of the the Fast and the Furious movies were directed by, I think it's Justin. I don't want to get his name wrong, but one of the Fast and the Furious directors directed a bunch of Community episodes as well. So like you have Fast and the Furious, huge like budget grossing
Fast and the
movies.
Furious. That's something else you're into.
And that's that's for next episode.
Let's talk about the Fast and the Furious.
Oh no!
And then the Marvel movies also like huge grossing movies. So like there's just a lot of talent going around Community, and it's weird to think that those movies translate into also TV shows. But like once again, highly recommend.
Can't wait to rate those.
Well,
Yeah.
Fast and Furious sounds like a because there's 7 or 8 of them. Sounds like a passion project.
You really got to put some time into those.
Yeah. Speaking of passion projects, so we're gonna wrap up with something that we've been doing might be worth your time. We think it might be worth your time, but something what we're spending some of our free time on. What are you doing, Tito?
Yeah, so I don't know a non-pretentious way to say this, but so I've been reading.
Say it with a British accent.
So I've been. I should say it with a
Right.
Russian accent. So I
Yeah, do
try to
that.
have like a. That sounds offensive. So I try to have a book on my phone at all times. I try to read something. Whenever I have some downtime, I'll pull it up and I'll take a gander at it. Usually I have like some random book on my phone as I'm reading. Whenever I have a few
That
few
sounded like
minutes.
Mrs. Doubtfire.
That's.
You sound like a right dandy lad, then.
Ooh, just
I
a
went
wee
for the-
little tea.
Sorry, go ahead, Tito.
I went for the proper Lord British accent, as opposed to the Cockney. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that I started reading War and Peace. I made it through the first 100 pages, so I have several, tens of thousands of pages left. Like I have young kids. They fall asleep. I try to like rock them to sleep. You can't just like rock them to sleep for 30 seconds or else they'll immediately wake back up. So you have to like make sure they're asleep for 5-10 minutes before you actually like put them down in their beds, in their cribs. So like I'll sit there, I'll read a little War and Peace, and I'll help these guys get to bed. And so far it's fucking wild. Mind is
Really?
blown. It's fine.
Oh.
It is interesting. It's about Russian regal society. There's this Anatole character. He seems kind of crazy. Excited to see where he goes. No, it's
So you're still in the war part. You're not to the peace part yet.
no, certainly not. I'm even pre-war.
What?
War is really ramping up here. No, real comment about it. It's so there's really quickly a bunch of different translations. I googled to see which was like the best, like most accessible translation, because apparently there are literal translations that are like really difficult to read. There are more high-minded translations that are difficult to process. I'm reading the Penguin translation, which is recommended by just me Googling a lot, and it's, I'd say, surprisingly accessible. So it's interesting. I would not give it a 5. Like, if you have like a whole bunch of time on your hands and you want to like brag to your pretentious friends about something that you're doing, read War and Peace, I guess. But yeah, it's interesting. It's kept my attention. I read it on the toilet sometimes instead of playing Overwatch. Uh, what do
Very
you give
high.
War and Peace? I feel like I'm obligated. I'm not going to rate War and Peace.
You got to finish it first.
Yeah, check back in with me when I finish it. I'll give it a rating.
How about you, Hummer?
So I am currently researching building a gaming PC solely for the purpose of playing Half-Life Alyx.
Nice.
I really want to play that game. I'm a big fan of the Half-Life series. Kind of disappointed that we can't get VR on consoles because they're frankly just not powerful enough, I guess. So
PlayStation VR.
yeah, but they still don't have Half-Life Alyx.
Sure, of course.
But no, like as I was going through it, and I've been sharing with you some of the specs I'm looking at, because I'm also on a budget. I'm not trying to build a $2,000 PC. I'd love to, but we're not going to do that. Just do it. Just do it. Call it the Nike PC. Just do it.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
Yeah. Any drawbacks? So, like, if you look at the console versus PC platform, the biggest thing that I see with consoles is it's a continuous investment. You know, you might have a low upfront cost, but you're paying for Xbox Live, you're paying for all these services. It ends up adding up over its shelf life of actually owning it, where the PC costs you more upfront, but the overall cost to play is lower because you don't have to pay reoccurring fees to play any of your games online. It's also upgradable too, so if you want better graphics, you can do that down the road. So I'm kind of torn also too, because I feel like either a laptop or a desktop, but the desktop seems so much more fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it? Is it more fun?
Is it?
What's your timeline on this? How when do you think you'll get it finished?
Literally whenever they lift the COVID stay-at-home restrictions, because the best prices for your PC products are found at Micro Center. Visit your local Micro Center.
Micro Center. Dude, we got to get over to Micro Center.
Why you keep saying Micro Center? I get paid every time you do.
But no, in all seriousness, that's what I'm pretty much that's what I'm waiting for, because the price disparity between, like, which is odd because they have physical brick and mortar locations, but they're cheaper than Amazon, they're cheaper than Newegg. You know, they're just, frankly, they've had the best prices out there. So, but most of their products are in store only. They actually don't deliver on most of their products, so I have to actually visit the store to get it. And they're not open thanks to Governor Tom Wolf of Pennsylvania.
Oh. Yeah, I was ready to do battle with you and argue with you on, why I don't, like, if I could go back in time, I wouldn't build my gaming PC, and I would instead get a MacBook Pro and just have a desktop setup where you can like plug in an external GPU and like plug it into like a couple monitors and then just take your MacBook Pro and go, because I would much rather have that setup now, just to be able to take my laptop and everything that's on my desktop and just have it wherever I'm at if I want to work on something. But you made the point of you want it to play VR games, and so I can't really argue with that. I mean, if you want to play VR, I want to play Half-Life Alyx too. I just haven't found enough games to make the commitment to buy a VR yet. So I mean, yeah, if that's what you want to do, just do it, man, and let me borrow it.
I know, like. I'm afraid to eventually tell my wife, like, how much did you spend on this video game? I spent like $1,000, $1,300 to play this video game, this one game.
It's supposed to be great.
It's kind of,
It's supposed to be a 5, babe. It's supposed to be a 5.
Allegedly, it's a 5.
all right. So we're gonna see what Homer decides to do with that. Me myself, since we're running out of time here, I just really quickly want to mention one of my favorite Sega games of all time is Earthworm Jim. I play. They have Earth right now on the Sega Mini. If you have that, no, I'm sorry, Earthworm Jim 1. I've played Earthworm Jim 2 over and over and over and over again, all childhood. One of my favorite games. Recently on Kickstarter, I saw that the creator of the game was kickstarting a big hardbound comic book. So I kickstarted it and I got it in the mail. So I'm gonna grab it here. Far, but it's thick, it's nice, it's beautifully drawn. Wait, yeah. It looks great. The story isn't that good, to be honest. As someone who reads comic books, it's pretty like cliche and not too creative, which I'm a little let down on, especially because they're so wacky. But looks really cool, and it's nice. I just wanted to support the creator and get this really good looking hardcover comic. So that's what I did this week is I read that comic book, which sadly a little let down. I can't give it a rating because it's not like you can go out and do it because either you were part of the Kickstarter or you weren't. Just sharing my personal experiences.
Yeah. So should I check it out? I mean, if you want comic book recommendations, I've got them all over the place. But I'm curious. I am curious about this Earthworm Jim comic. So what do you think? Should I read it?
No.
No.
Unless you have the hardcore nostalgia for it that I do, it's worth checking out. But no, the comic is itself, like the story is pretty bad. Sad to say.
Fair enough.
Dun dun dun.
Gonna be getting into anything this upcoming week for next week?
Oh yeah, of course. There's a new. We'll see. There's a new. I'll probably check out. Whatever's on Netflix. Apparently, there's a Chris Hemsworth movie that's coming out that on Netflix, which is like not him being the God of Thunder. It's called Extraction. It's supposed to be like him doing something in the real world, possibly robbing something.
Produced by the Russos.
Oh, it's produced by the Russo brothers. Yeah, he's a mercenary and he's like looking for a kidnapped person. But I honestly love Chris Hemsworth. He's done like a bunch of cool movies. I actually didn't see the Men in Black that he was in, but basically everything else I've seen him in, even if the movie itself wasn't great, he's been great in. So I'll probably check that out this next week. Yeah, that's my main thing. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I'm a huge Chris Hemsworth fan, and that's what I'm going to be talking about. So buckle up.
Big pecs.
That's also what I'm checking out. What I'm getting into. What about you, Hummer?
So I'm definitely wrapping up Mad Men season 7, but I'm probably gonna check out a little bit of the Waco limited series.
I saw that.
Yeah, I think that looks pretty interesting. Might head back and watch an old movie or two. One of them might being I'm always a big sucker for Goodfellas, which I'm seeing is on Netflix. So I think I'm gonna check out an old movie and maybe even some Too Hot to Handle.
Whoa.
Speaking of Too Hot to Handle, don't forget you can follow us at Timesink Pod on Twitter, at Timesink Pod on Instagram, and at Timesink Pod on Facebook. Thanks for joining us this week. We appreciate your time. We'll be back every Thursday. We're on Apple Podcasts and soon to be on Google. So thanks for tuning in, guys.
Do it. Come on, do it.
And girls, I assume, maybe.
Just do it. Do it.